Now I'm just gonna be obsessively checking if the mic is working. I have trauma from the video that I made where the sound sucked. So hello, welcome or welcome back. Today I would like to talk about books that I read in last 2 months. I am still reading some books that I have not finished, but I will talk about those at a later point. It's again a mixed bag of fiction and non-fiction. Anything else I would want to add? And how many books do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 books to talk about. Hopefully I will try to be short, but if you've been around, a woman likes to talk. So, first book is Pirate Care, Acts Against the Criminalization of Solidarity by Valeria Graziano, Marcel Mars, and Tomislav Medak, published by Pluto Press. This is a brilliant introduction to care and radical care politics if you are interested in the topic. As you already know, some of you, if you have seen the previous videos, my PhD is on the subject of politics of care, and this book proved very good for my PhD in the sense that it offered a lot of additional literature that I could explore, but it also added a layer to the knowledge that I already have acquired by reading other books. And in that regard, I found it very, very helpful, and it kind of affirms my ideological and political stance on care, and it offers a rather wide scope what care is, the difference between pirate care and care, and it challenges this notion of the caring state and caring state institutions. So if you are someone who's interested in this topic, I would recommend it. It's also very short, it's very fast to read, the language is very accessible, even for those who are not in the academic field. So in that sense, I would say that this book is really perfect for anyone who would like to learn more about this topic. Next one, we got Two Cheers for Anarchism by James C. Scott. I was quite surprised in the introduction about some of the statements that Scott made. I did not agree with those. However, reading this collection of essays did help me broaden my understanding of anarchism and how anarchist practice is applied. So in that sense, I found it very, very helpful. It's also very short and it's not overly academic. He uses a lot of examples from his own life, not just the research that he did, because he did a lot of ethnographic research, but also from his daily encounters with different people. And what I found very, very interesting is that how he uses his acquaintances, friendships that he creates, or any kind of situations that are present in his life, and he is analyzing it from this very political perspective. So he's going to encounter some challenges in his life, or when he was encountering challenges in his life, he was always looking at them from political perspective. In particular, one example that comes to mind is his relationship with his grandmother, and when he was trying to help her to find a good caring home where she could spend the rest of her life. And the challenge that he found while going out with her, trying to help her select a place that would be most appropriate for her, and how he approached it first as an individual, as a citizen, and then as a researcher. So it was very compelling to read how his research experience helped him actually understand the deeper problem that the caring facilities for elderly are facing or are creating themselves. And for me as a researcher, I found this very helpful, especially because when you are researching communities that are vulnerable or in some ways struggling against a form of oppression or systems that are actually endangering their lives and livelihoods, it's very important to be able to take a step back, reflect, and then take another step forward in the sense what you have learned from this reflection and what kind of an approach you can use instead. And I really appreciated the insights that he gave here. So if you're interested to understand a little bit more about anarchism, researching ethnographic research from the anarchist perspective, this book is for you. So next up is Undiscovered by Gabriela Weiner. I read this about maybe 3 weeks ago. I've had it for a while on my TBR, and I picked it up on a whim because I was feeling a little bit in a slump, and I have to say that it helped me get out of the slump. You can read this in a day or two. It's a rather fast read, and I really enjoyed the topic. So this is a sort of like autobiographical fiction. She is exploring her family history through the ancestor that she has, who was, I think he was like an ethnographer, anthropologist, or dabbling in ethnography and anthropology in the 19th century. She is originally from Peru, and she is trying to understand and give grace to her own identity. So she is exploring a question, what it means for someone like her to have an ancestor who was working for the colonial powers and perpetuating colonial ideology, in the sense writing and researching in order to support colonial prejudices against the indigenous peoples in Latin America. And through this, she's also exploring her identity as a queer woman. She's also exploring what it means to have to face as an individual, but also as a member of a family, the true identity of one of the people who actually define your existence, especially because she carries his last name. She also explores the fact that she lives in Spain and what does that mean for her, because Spain was a colonial power and occupied most of Latin America, colonized most of Latin America. So she is, I would say, adding a lot of layers and to the analysis of herself and the struggle that she has to accept herself within a particular framework, within particular identity that either she gives herself or that others attach to her, in particular regarding her the way she looks. Her physique is quite indigenous, as she says at one point. There was someone who told her that she looks very Peruvian, and she was asking a question, what does that actually mean? She's exploring her identity from the perspective of the observer, from the someone who is observing her from the outside, and she's exploring her identity from within as someone who is experiencing how she is othered by others, but also how she others herself. And if you are interested to understand a little bit about the history of Peru, and particularly the biography of this man, his name is Charles Weiner, it's very helpful. I was actually Googling him and trying to find some information about him. There are books that he wrote and are still available, I think in English. She talks a lot about them in the book, and she explores the perspective of someone who is trying to understand this great great grandfather of hers who in a way has marked so many generations and is sort of like an individual that is looming, is always there, but he's never spoken about inside the family. He's like avoided, but still very present. And this can be seen through one particular part where she talks about the Facebook group that they have created, where all the people who are from the wider range of the family, Weiner, are trying to kind of prove that they are actually his great great grandchildren. So I recommend it. I really enjoyed it. Next one is Others Were Emeralds by Leav. She is Australian Cambodian author, and I got this book recommendation from Hannah May. I will link her channel down below. In one of her anticipated releases videos, she makes a lot of those. I highly recommend them. You might find something that is interesting for you there, but in general her channel is really really nice. I had high expectations and high hopes for this book, especially because I really love Cambodia. I've been there several times, and it's one of the countries that I really found where I found myself and I felt like I was home. So I was looking forward to learn more about the immigrant refugee experience of Cambodians, in this case in particular in Australia. However, I was a little bit disappointed. Maybe I think I've spoken about this in a previous video. I think I just need stories that are about older people, more mature stories. Not really vibing with this like coming of age stories. Or maybe this book wasn't really for me. So what it is about, it's about this young Cambodian Australian woman whose family escaped the Khmer Rouge, and they sought refuge in Australia. I think she was born in Australia, or she was not born in Australia. But it's about her and the story she's telling of the time when she was in high school, when this tragedy occurred, and she is kind of grappling with the grief of and consequences of that tragedy. There were parts that I enjoyed. The writing was okay for me, nothing really special. It didn't blow me away, but I did have an issue with the character development. It was a little bit black and white. It didn't really strike a chord, and there was this kind of overwhelming need to create this world where migrants are kind of treated in this very black and white terms. I don't know, like the migrant experience in Australia, it was very strange. I just didn't. I wanted her to go deeper with the topic, but then again, I just didn't feel like she got there. She was attempting and trying to, and I could see the effort, but I don't feel like she got there. I would have really wanted to see more of this conversation between family members, or the lack thereof, regarding the experiences that their parents had in Cambodia, and it was just like vaguely touched upon. But then on the other hand, the exploration of grief after this tragedy was well, I wouldn't call it even a tragedy. It was just a racist attack, a deliberate racist attack. It didn't feel like it was, again, very one-dimensional, I would say. And what else can I say about this novel? I'm just like trying to think about something positive. I mean, I did read it quite fast. I did enjoy it, but overall, I think it could have done a much better job at exploring particular aspects of the experience that Cambodian refugees had in Australia and their children. So yeah, it does explore racism, and it was interesting to see it from the perspective of non-white Australians who are struggling with this, and it was set in the 90s, so there is a specific context in question, and I learned from it, but it didn't really, like, it was lacking this zhuzh, I think. That's what it was. But you know, I think you should pick it up if this is something that you would be interested in to explore, so it could be something that would work for you. Next one is The Mythology of Work, How Capitalism Persists Despite Itself, and this was the first book club read I picked, and it was just a way to kind of get the ball rolling for the book club. I spoke about it for a year, and that I wanted to initiate it, and in the end I did it. We met, we discussed, it was fun, and I hope you join us on the next round. You can still vote today. Today is the 5th of June, but I'm not sure whether this video will be up today, so just ignore that information. And just like the title says, this book explores the myth of work, what it means to work, how we develop the ideology of work, and how do we resist it. Peter really explores it in depth. So I particularly enjoyed the chapter on managerialism, and it dives really deep into this need that managerial position has to justify itself. It explores how this position was created, when it was created, what was the purpose of it, what purpose does it serve, how we can resist it, and in what way we can challenge its power. The other chapters were also good. There was one chapter that I didn't find that it was that much necessary. It was it called? Critique of Dialogical Reason. And then the last chapter, which is the conclusion, he had some insights about Greber's work, which I did not agree with. I also found this very helpful because you should read books that you disagree with, because then you can criticize it and give it another layer of analysis. And in that sense, I found it very helpful. I found a lot of information that I could also use for my own work. And it's been sitting on my shelves for a while, and I thought it was a good idea to read it. If not now, when? Next book is The Dog of the North by Elizabeth McKenzie. And this was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. This book is about, Penny Rush, who has many problems, as the blurb says. But I found her character to be so irritating, not in the sense that she was a bad person, but because she was such a good person. Penny Rush is a person who never thinks of herself, her needs, she never sets boundaries, she despises conflict, and she avoids it at all costs. And this was so frustrating to read for me, especially because I'm the total opposite of Penny Rush. But it was a really fun and enjoyable read. She's trying to solve an issue that her grandmother found herself in. That woman was horrendous. Like, I was just like, give me a stick so I can smack her in the head. How annoying she was. But throughout the novel, she really pushes, and I think at the end of it, she comes out by setting some boundaries and being able to kind of grow as a character in the novel. And I've really enjoyed it. It's a really lighthearted read. There are sad bits in it. There is like emotional parts. I think I even cried while reading it, but it was a enjoyable read in that sense. And I'm really sorry if you can hear a truck. I think those are people who are collecting trash. The final book is Liars by Sarah Manguso. I've been postponing to read this for a while, and I dreaded reading it because I saw some reviews that said how horrible John, the male character in the book, is, the protagonist's husband. And then I thought, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna read it. And I read it very fast. In between the obligations that I had, I was reading it. It's a very interesting form of writing, of very simple sentences. It almost comes out as a diary. But it was disturbing to read, especially because, you know, John is horrible. And while I was reading it, I kept thinking how many women at this particular time are going through the same thing that she's describing in this book. So this book is about a protagonist. We don't learn her name until maybe 190 something page. Her name is Jane. And the only names that we do learn before that is her husband's name and some of her friends. She does talk about the child that she has as well, and she does not refer to the child with a name, but she calls him the child. So that was very interesting. This woman knows how to clean, I have to say that. And there is a lot of cleaning in the book. She talks a lot about cleaning. And I was like, how much is this woman actually cleaning? It seems like the only thing that she's doing in life is cooking and cleaning. And that was, I believe, the purpose of it, because it's supposed to give you an understanding of the day-to-day activities that women engage in who are in these kind of relationships and marriages where they feel completely trapped by patriarchy, and how she as an individual does not have any identity outside of this domesticity. I found it really, really frustrating, but at the same time, this is the reality that many women live, and I thought she used really good literary tools to kind of show this, how this repetitiveness of cleaning is actually taking so much time of your existence, and how at one point she doesn't even think she exists outside of this chore that she has to do every day. In regards to the relationship that she develops with her husband, this man is toxic. He's like the most self-centered and selfish person I have so far encountered on a page in a book. I met few of them in real life as well, and that was also interesting to kind of reflect on the individuals that I met who are like John. And I have to say it was frustrating, but at the same time enjoyable to read, because you feel affirmed. You feel that you are not the only person who has had this experience, that there are many women who go through this every day, and that we really need to push back. And at one point I thought to myself, how much is she going to take? How much this woman has to give of herself to this marriage, to this husband of hers, She, at one point, I thought this is never ending, and I was like on the page 130, and I was like, is she going to leave him at one point? What's going on? I was like looking over at the page 160, and she was still with him, and I was like, oh my god, another 100 pages of this torture. This is going to be horrible. But then I pushed through it, and I thought it was a really good book. It's not particularly, I would say, like, stylistically perfect, but the topic that it tackles, it's very important. So if you're a woman or a man, please read this book. Especially if you're a man, you need to read this. I mean, the women already know. They've experienced this so many times. But yeah, so that's the last of it. I tried to be quick. Some of the books I addressed a little bit more, some less. That's part of the problem that might emerge when you have read a book some time ago, and what kind of an impression the book left on you. So I guess I tried to address this feeling and that it left inside of me, and not particularly plot line or maybe specifics regarding the story, but rather more like character development and the subjects that the book was trying to address. So I hope you find something from the list that I have if you haven't read the books that I've talked about. If you have read any of these books, please share your thoughts. I would really appreciate to hear about it. Thank you for watching. Bye.